Aloha. Today I wanted to make an actual short video and recap, kind of do like an overview of yesterday in relation to a question that a friend of mine asked me. Yesterday she asked me, like, what do you see for this year? And I pretty much explained what I explained yesterday, but it was more condensed in reference to last year and observing last year. And in order to explain this year, I had to explain last year. So in the last video, I had to explain more of kind of like the actual details. This I wanted to explain kind of like the philosophy of the year and last year. So last year was more about people questioning their reality because their reality has been shaken up so much, and people were aware of information, but they weren't really, it wasn't activating, it wasn't calibrated yet. People weren't comfortable with that information because that a lot of that information makes up who the actual individual is. People are largely somebody else or something else, whatever they look outside of. Since we have been so externalized over so many generations, we don't know how to be truly who we are on the inside out and express that as an individual. We don't know how to sing our own songs because we're constantly singing somebody else's song. We're singing whatever songs are trending and hot and attractive in the moment, and so on and so forth. And what's, that's out of style, what's in style, like that whole world goes down to the very essence of individuals' humanity. So last year was kind of how I'm seeing it, was kind of like the peak or the end of that. Yeah, it's like the peak of that synthetic spiral, and now people are starting to come down. Like last year was about coming down off of, instead of a high, last year was like coming off of a bad trip. And before that, you were just in the trip and numb to the trip because the trip was the experience. It was your normal reality. But the trip itself started, once you start coming down off of that trip, you start to become aware of the trip a lot more because you are becoming more into your own body. So 2016 represented people coming into their own body. In that space of in between tripping and in their own body, they started to be surrounded by information. And when you're surrounded by information, you're surrounded by perspectives of yourself. So people had to look at themselves a lot more in reference to them looking outside of themselves. So the world showed people last year, the world showed people, a lot of people, who they are on the inside. And a lot of people are actually walking around as their representatives, like their concierge or their lobby host or whatever it is. They're walking around as somebody else, and who they really are, like their honest selves, are hidden away because it's not politically correct. It's not welcomed by society. It's not, whatever it is, it's too controversial. Whatever it is, people are hiding themselves for the benefit of being accepted by the synthetic reality. And now that synthetic reality has been revealed for what it's been based on, what it is, and what it was, and what it still is. That's what last year represented. People seeing the world made people see themselves. And when you see yourself, you're not going to automatically shift yourself. You're going to have some time between then and now or then and the actual now of coming into your now moment to see who and what you really are, shifting from that reality into a new space, which is your regular space, your actual space. There That's what last year represented. People looking into the mirror and seeing themselves through other people and seeing more of themselves. So people aren't going to shift automatically once they start to see themselves. Once you start to look at the world for what it is instead of what it's been designed to do, which is to distract you and control you and convince you into believing that this world is the end-all be-all of human evolution. Like the heliocentric model, the very essence of this model is designed to have you locked up in a synthetic universe, and you buy into whatever that synthetic universe projects out as your reality that maintains the so-called powers that be. So when people start to see that in actual real time, down to the very physics of our reality, down to the globe model, and seeing the flat earth realm, and down to the scientism university mind control program, and seeing all of the deception that's been going on over generations, actually seeing the military industrial complex, actually seeing the prison industrial complex, actually experiencing for once, feeling on so many levels that those programs that we thought had died off in stuff like the synthetic version of change, the Civil Rights Act, and all that stuff. The things that we thought that changed, that didn't change, were now being seen for what they were and seen for what they are now. The evolution of syntheticism, the evolution of evolutionism, the evolution of separation, division, the evolution of soullessness, the evolution of hopelessness, the evolution of materialism. All of these systems have just evolved over generations, over centuries. And since people are now actually engaging in that reality rather than looking the other way. See, the year before that, 2015, people were actually fighting it. People were just like, I'm not gonna, that's stupid. They're like, you're dumb, you're crazy. But now, in 2016, it was actually like validating for a lot of people who had been saying this information for so long. So you can't fight some. So now in that world, the mainstream actually was adopting the world that people were defending a year before and decades before. It was actually being defended. So the defenses came down at the end of 2015, and throughout 2015, so the defenses came down in the end of 2015. Throughout 2016, people were now vulnerable. The world was now vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, it had to get bigger. The illusion had to get bigger. So this is what Trump represented and what he represents now. The illusion getting bigger. 2017 represents the illusion being seen for what it is and actually its demise. So last year, when the defenses came down, people were aware of the illusion. They were integrating the fact that this is an illusion and this is all generic. It's all a show. It's a TV show. It's The Apprentice in real life, and actual blood is being shed for this synthetic reality. And these are your kids that are being manipulated by the trending ad, by social media, by your so-called leaders, by your university system, by your scientism-ists, by your NASA, by your CERN scientists, and so on and so forth. Your celebrities in politics, every single aspect of this reality is manipulated to make the masses think and act a certain way. And last year represented people actually seeing it. The year before that, and years before that, 2015 and beyond that, people were actually fighting and defending that system. 2016, those defenses were down, and people had to see what that world was about and see who they are about, who they are and who they are about. This is why 2016 was so devastating. It was so like critical, because, and harsh, because that's the system dying. The system in that death, people themselves, their synthetic realities, their synthetic bodies are dying. And this is how I'm seeing why all of these celebrities, these old school, whoever, whatever, it's energy really. So it doesn't really matter who it is and what it is. Energetically, this system needed to, in a sense, purge its energy to adjust to the level of consciousness that was being the light in reference to consciousness being shown on the experience for what it is. So it's like opening a door of light in a dark room, and all this light coming in. Like all that darkness that was ruling that experience now has to go somewhere energetically. So when everybody was, before that, it was a party in the dark. Everybody was having a good time in the darkness. But once people got fed up, once people started to realize how deep this was, and it's not like it's not a singular thing. It's not like a linear thing. It's an actual. It's like a 360-degree sight. It's not like seeing one thing and paying attention to it. It's everything. It's all of the information added up. Whatever perspective that you come from what you think is right and what you think is wrong. It's all of those. It's the collection of everything. From flat earth to CERN to the Mandela effect to transhumanism to simulation theory. Everybody revealing this information for what it is, or what it appears to them to be. That actual being looking at it actually shifts it, because that kind of like the double slit experiment and that whole thing, by actually engaging in it, it shifts the reality. So when before that, if you're not paying attention to it, then the manipulators of that world who are aware of the alchemy within this system can control you with the other side of the reality, the balances of nature that you are unaware of. And it's not like they are making you do something. It's that those entities are working within the level of consciousness of this system. So this is why it's so important to dumb down the masses, because you're actually dumbing down. It's not like they're dumbing down education to keep you dumb educationally, intellectually. They're dumbing down literally your consciousness. That's energy that's being dumbed down. And you're dumbing down that these children are the most high vibrating beings on they don't have any density. They haven't downloaded this synthetic system. This is why cartoons are so laced with programming. This is why your kids are immediately dumped into the education system and bombarded by conformity and basically this overtly manipulative mind control program that you call like discipline and education and whatever the hell you want to validate it as. It's not for the kids. It's for them to shut down their dreams, for them to shut down their energy, for them to dumb down their intellect, for them to dumb down their consciousness overall, so that when they come of age, they are grown, their bodies are grown, but their minds, their souls, and their body mind is still a child, because it never got a chance to grow. This is why you have these leaders, so-called leaders, who are just man children. And you can see this in even more so in the fall of all kinds of communities, more obvious now is like the so-called black conscious community and the beef that's going on in that, or has been going on. It's now shifting now. In just on the show, it's shifting. But what's happening is you're starting to see that a lot of these so-called leaders are not even grown themselves. These are man children. The ego, this is why the ego takes over. The ego, and you have all these arrogant mentalities that take over to take the place of actual divine masculinity, actual divine balances of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Those gaps in your growth from years prior get filled with arrogance and giant out of balance synthetic egos. And since you've balanced that reality out with so much work, like you've still done work to make yourself a leader, then people will continually grow their consciousness along with your downfalls, your man-child leadership qualities. And that is dangerous on many levels. But it's now being seen for what it is and seen for what it was. And that's what last year represents. And that's why last year, right at the end of last year, these two so-called leaders actually showed a large part of their true colors. And now that has been released, that pressure has been released, because people were actually defending it, like the year prior to that, people defending the system. But now people who are following those so-called leaders are now having to activate their own leadership capabilities, their own fire from within, now having let go of the idol worship of man children, for one example. But these are just examples of what kind of like 2016 represented. And now having all of that pressure being released, that's what this synthetic world is. This trending world is designed to distract you, keep you in that animalistic behavior. So they keep the UFC fights out there. They keep Joe Rogan talking about, you know, the science of fighters and all that shit. Like it's ridiculous. And since we really don't have much, like everything, when you really think about it, all of your entertainment, your so-called intelligent information, your documentaries, your Discovery, Science Channel, National Geographic, all of that is manipulated by the system. It's under a control, it's under a limitation program. So you yourself really don't have anything to expand your consciousness, because your consciousness is based upon, when you are living in an external synthetic reality, you are subject to what the magicians of the mind control consciousness program releases to you. So this, a big one, is NASA. So they tell you, we discovered this planet, and they're running out of shit. They're running out of stuff. This is why they have to say they're going to Mars and all this other stuff. This is why they're putting SpaceX out there. This is why CERN is coming up. This is why they're talking more about the Mandela effect in reference to CERN's, because they have to bombard you with distraction a lot more and create more belief into this illusory synthetic system. So the distraction has to get more intellectual. The distraction has to get more believable. The distraction has to get more real for you, because the old system is dead. So they have to create this new system. So Trump is a giant distraction. This Pizzagate stuff is another version of creating a system of self-implosion and controlled demolition of this system to orchestrate its own demise, so that the totality of the demise will not be revealed. So they have to orchestrate versions of demolition. to make it look like things are changing, and then you set up your people of change, and you think they're going to prosecute themselves? You think they're going to do it? No, they're not going to do any of that shit. They're going to play the game, and even if they do, it'll still be a television show. Look at how many, and you can see it on the streets. Look at the percentages of cops that don't even go to trial because of shit they do, in comparison to the amount of people who go to jail for shit that's even questionable about what they did. Largely a lot of innocent people. Look how many people are in jail right now for cannabis and so on and so forth. So that's now legal. Like, how many fucking prisoners are so pissed off right now because it's a recreational drug? They got imprisoned because what is now seen as a recreational drug, only because the system was doing that for profit. That led them into they're in jail because of the profit system. They're not in jail because they did anything wrong. They're in jail because the system wanted to profit off of an orchestrated illusion. And now it's being revealed for what it is. And how many millions of people are in California? How many millions of people are in jail in California? This is ridiculous. I mean, and that's just a microcosm of the macrocosm of the entire country. So all this stuff happening last year is going to, it sets up the foundation for this year. And this is why I said this year is going to be largely about that information that had been revealed last year being actually moved around internally and externally and pushed even further into the depths of what it really is, going into understanding, getting out of the distraction world. So as we go further into ourselves and the actual unveiling of truth, unveiling of these deceptions, we are now going to see who and what we really are, who and what this system told us to be, and what it all really means, and start to activate our actual connections, our actual power, our actual consciousness, start to light those fires from the inside out, as opposed to having us defend the fires that are lit by a synthetic reality that only means to light fires to burn up the natural connections that humanity has with each other and nature and so on and so forth. Our internal fire has been stolen, manipulated, dumbed down, and turned into a system of profit for haves at the expense of the have-nots. And this system last year was revealed for what it was and what it is. And all the aggressive progressives and TYT and Alex Jones and Trump and Bernie Sanders and Jill Stein and all these other fake leaders in the so-called conscious community and all these other fake leaders in the New Age community, so-called New Age community, all this artificial synthetic bullshit that has been put up as the next distraction. All of that stuff that has been put up will also be seen for what it is and will also crumble underneath its own weight, because its own weight was based upon density itself. If you try to make a god or a king out of yourself in a synthetic castle made out of sand, you will crumble under your own weight. If you do not go into that space from a completely natural and interconnected perspective, challenging yourself to forever grow and expand your consciousness, not for yourself but for all of existence. If you don't go from that space, if you don't touch the actual roots, you won't have any. That tree won't truly grow. You'll just either be playing a game or watching a movie, telling yourself something is happening. But People are tired of watching movies. Even now, that's another good one. Actually, people are seeing movies for their manipulative programming. People are now no longer going to sit around and watch these slave movies the same way. They're not going to be able to sit around and watch these love stories of that. Like, look at some of the old movies that came, not even old, super old movies, but if you watch like a movie that came out in like the 90s or the 80s or the 70s, if you watch those movies, you can see that those movies were based upon the level of consciousness of the people and how they could be manipulated. Watch how, look at how gullible people were, the consciousness was. Look at how simple that magic was, the Hollywood spells were. Look at how blatant their separation programs were. You don't even have to watch the movies. Just think about these movies. Think about the propaganda that you have seen in school. Think about the propaganda that has been pushed out with television shows that you grew up with. Think about all of that nonsense and see what it's evolved to now. That shit didn't go away. It got stronger. It adjusted itself to the level of consciousness of the masses so they can continue to profit off of the masses. See, all these systems are being revealed for what they are and what they were. And that's when you're starting to tap into the roots. Once it's one thing to reveal what they are. That's pretty much what 2016 was. Trump's face, his reality, his experience as a whole, the manifestation of Trump now being also seen as a leader. He is the face of that whole system. He is the face of that world. Once it's seen for what it is, now it has to be seen for what it was. And last year represents being seen for what it is. This year is going to be even more so people going into seeing what it was. And when you go into seeing things for what it was, then you're going into the root structures of the system. You can't stop that ball from rolling. You have to keep going. You have to keep going as far. And that's what all this TYT, aggressive progressives, Americana, Alex Jones, and all these politicians teaming up with celebrities, that's what all that shit was. They tried to maintain the face of the synthetic root consciousness. It never had a chance. Not even in hell. It never had a chance. But since people were so synthetic themselves, they've synthesized their consciousness themselves, then that reality was it still mattered. It still worked for some people. Like they still were buying that program because it was so thick. It's a very intricate system. But now, since people are seeing the face, now they got to go into the body. So that's pretty much what this boils down to. Last year was revealing the face of the synthetic reality. Then they're going to go into the body. This is what I'm seeing 2017 represents. The essence, the roots of these problems, the roots of these systems. Where did this stuff come from? How does it still exist today? Why did it exist? What's actually organic outside of this synthetic reality? What are we going to do about it? What is our true potential? Now that this face has been seen for what it is, what's going on with the body? Is this body sick? Yes, obviously. This system profits off the body being sick. And the system itself doesn't allow you to see that the body is sick because they constantly keep you paying attention to the face of reality. They keep you looking at the distraction of reality, and they don't allow you to get in to the organic natures of who and what you are and who and what you were. They will never allow you to understand that. This is why the university system will never go into the indigenous people. They will continually try to build these sandcastles on top of the illusions of, well, they were just primitive and savage. Why? Because the evolution theory says so. See, since what evolution says is that today we are the peak of evolution. So that means mathematically that humans 1,000 years ago and 2,000 years ago were less smart than us. They were less evolved than us. So they must have been primitive, savage, dumb, like monkeys. See? Get it? This basic ass theory, this basic ass illusion of humanity is crumbling. It's dead. It's been dead. It's based upon death. So they have to install that dead consciousness into you. That dead consciousness has been installed into your mind, into your soul, and into your body. It's been installed on every level of consciousness. And now people are seeing the synthetic face for what it is, no longer believing the illusions of these magicians and mind control programs, and now starting to reconnect with the roots of their body. Once people reconnect with the roots of their body, the natural body, you are simultaneously unveiling the roots of the synthetic mind control programs and removing that system completely. This is what's happening. This is what happened last year. This is what it started to trickle out last year because people need to be comfortable. Like, before you share an actual topic, like for example, like the flat earth realm information, before you share that, you have to be comfortable and confident in that information. And that shifts your consciousness. It shifts your reality. So last year represents how I'm seeing it, that shifting of consciousness where people were trying to get comfortable. And the system was designed to continue to make you uncomfortable, to make you caught up in your emotional body, caught up in the synthetic world, caught up in the face of illusion. And once that reality has been seen for what it is, now consciousness will continue to grow. It will continue to expand. So what will happen? People will have to go back to the beginning, like their origins, their understandings. And it's nobody else's responsibility than your own. This is why this mind control program was so okay with lying to you. Because if you will believe one big ass lie, then you'll believe all these tiny little lies that back up that big lie. And if you dumb yourself down enough over so many generations to believe yourself into this low budget universe, colonial universe, then shit, that's you creating your reality in one sense. So they're gonna do it, and that's what's been done. But people aren't gonna take that shit anymore. They're not gonna sit around and just let that happen, because we know we're deeper than that on so many levels. But it's our responsibility to see it. It's nobody else's responsibility. This is why they don't give a shit about teaching you about the indigenous cultures or so-called black history, actual indigenous histories and aboriginal histories in your education system, because that's not what they're designed for. They're designed to condition you, to mind control you into the European consciousness on one sense. That's just one example. It's so much deeper than that. It's basically about separating you completely from your soul, from your spirit, and so on and so forth. But we have to go in order of unveiling. This is why I speak in reference to the colonial program and so much and so forth. Once you unveil what is obvious, it's obvious for people to see the colonial program, especially in reference to the indigenous massacres and genocides that this so-called country is based on. It's based upon illusion. So you have to go in order. Once you start to realize the reality of the colonial universe, then you can start to get into the intricacies of that. And of that, it's up to the individual which kind of angle they want to take, which kind of approach they want to take. In looking into those worlds. But I focus more on the order of approach, which is obvious. How I see it to me is that we need to reconnect with nature, which the indigenous and aboriginal people already were and still are connected to today. Connecting with your soul, connecting with your conscious mind, and planting your roots from the ancestral space, and then moving on. And within all of that realization, you will start to unveil the intricacies of the Zionist programming and the Cabal, the Illuminati, and all the metaphysical magic the alchemy that's been used against us. We will be able to see all of that stuff as we flip the script. But we have to go in the order of, and I'm not saying this is the order, this is just how I'm saying this is what feels natural to me and why I share how I share, in order to help people see more of themselves through my journey of coming back to myself. And it's an everlasting journey. But the first thing is to remove the synthetic systems. And this is what last year represented, removing the synthetic systems. 2017 is about activating your natural systems, and that will simultaneously deactivate the synthetic systems. So this is what I'm seeing 2017 is all about, and the years after 2017. And Trump will just continue to represent the old system. He's there as the figurehead of the synthetic realm, the synthetic humanity, the synthetic consciousness, and all of the synthetic systems will crumble around him or whoever else. Everything else that's synthetic, it will crumble around whoever places themselves out there to represent this is why it's so crucial to also look at every angle of the TYT and Alex Jones and all them, because they're still trying to defend this synthetic system. They're not going into the blood and the bones of the indigenous and the aboriginal people. They might hint on it every now and again, but when you hear what they are for, then you realize that they don't give a shit ultimately about going to the depths of truth, to the depths of the roots. They want to stay on a shallow version. They want to stay in the foundation, the plumbing systems of the castles made out of sand. They want to stay in that world. Why? Because evolution led up to us building this beautiful castle, and you don't have any gratitude for what this castle made for you. How dare you? How dare you turn your backs on the forefathers? How dare you turn your backs on the Constitution and all that other victimization programming they have from taking pride in a genocidal system. Get the fuck out of here with all that. I had to drop one F-bomb in there. I guess before I close it out. But yeah, that's what 2016 represents, how I'm seeing it. And 2017 is going to be something different, because now it's up to the people, it's up to the consciousness to reconnect with their roots, reconnect with their fire. And once you start tapping into fire, that's a whole nother It's a whole nother experience. It's a whole nother universe. But at least this will be natural fire. It won't be styrofoam fire or plastic fire. This is going to be... See, styrofoam and plastic fire is like fire within the box, within the system. Let's protest the system. That's like Michael Moore, like fire. Like, talk to your representatives and get them to fight for you. Get them to change the legislatures. Like, shut the fuck up with all this nonsense. How many years is that gonna go on before you start to challenge yourself to look at how deep this program really goes? That's how you can see how far, how these people are designed to make you, to limit you, to keep you in the box. So these boxes are being ripped apart. We're no longer living in the clubhouse anymore. This is not a clubhouse humanity. All this is garbage. It's nonsense. So yeah, that's how I'm seeing. That's what I wanted to share with this video. So thank you for joining me. Thank you again for the support from everybody. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.